Hey, welcome back to Bridal Sewing Techniques, and today we're going to talk about boning. All things boning. So this channel is basically for emerging seamsters. You know, the catchphrase around here is, are you someone who has experience with a mix of sewing but is looking to get into the bridal sewing niche? This channel is for you. Well, we've had quite a bit of interest lately, piqued by Micarah Tewers' wonderful YouTube channel. It's a blast. It's really funny. If you don't subscribe to her, go check her out. But a lot of times in her sewing tutorials, she uses zip ties instead of boning. Can or should we use zip ties? And if not, what are we quote unquote supposed to be using? So when you look at the zip ties, they are really similar to plastic boning. They have some of the same properties, but I want to go over what we actually use instead typically and how we use it. And I also want to go over our full spectrum of choices that we have for boning, because there's quite a few choices. You are not limited to the hardware section in the different colors of zip ties. So that's the good news. A lot of people are scared of working with boning, but it's actually pretty simple. The most popular boning, or the most common boning that we see in bridal, is this Ridgeline sew-through boning. And you can see that this is a used piece that I've pulled from a gown. So you can see that it has been machine sewn right through. We usually cap the tips of these because these individual plastic stays can kind of work their way out as the boning is used and bent, and those can kind of tend to stab you. They're pretty painful. So we kind of keep them in check, usually by capping the ends of the bones. And this is what it means when it says sew through. It means you really just sew through it. So you will usually see this sewn to the lining layer of a wedding gown. Most often you will see this sewn into the seam allowance of the side seams of the wedding gown. If any of this is over your head, do not worry about it. I have an entire channel and we go into all sorts of this stuff. So you can actually watch me alter a wedding gown and sew the boning in it so you can know where it goes. I'm also getting ready to show you some sketches of kind of where you put the boning and what kinds you use there as well. But this would be first capped and then sewn to we're using this piece of ribbon as an example of, say, lining. Now here is a piece of some fabric that I have cut out of a wedding gown. Okay, so this is a mass manufactured wedding gown. I wanted to show you how it is commonly used. It's not always capped with ribbon. I like ribbon because I can heat seal it. Sometimes it is capped with muslin or like a cotton kind of fabric, a canvas, and then other times you'll see these silicone caps. Sometimes I even see them use a little bit of tape, and it looks exactly like electrical tape. So for those of you are in the Micarah camp and you have been getting your zip ties at Home Depot or Lowe's, you can also get your caps in the electrical department with some electrical tape if you want. But this is a silicone cap, and it's also a sew through. You can see they sewed right through that. So that is super handy. They used invisible thread on this side, and this is a clear boning because this was an illusion bodice. And then they used an ivory thread, just a poly cotton thread on probably like the bobbin side is probably what that is. So this is a really common way that you would see the boning put in and used in a wedding gown. Obviously, from what you just saw, the boning comes in different widths. So this is going to be a lighter weight boning. A lot of times you see this in some of the flowy, lightweight bridesmaids gowns, looking at sizes more from like 0 to 10, 12 maybe. After that, they really usually will step it up, and you will see this in some of the plus sizes, the curvier designs, gowns that are more structured, or usually in at least the side seams will have this 1/2 inch boning. This is a lot stronger than its 1/4 inch counterpart. Right, now the fun stuff, the steel bones. Aren't these fun? Look at Look at the way they're designed. These are quite fun to handle. So basically you buy these at length, you cut them, and then you cap them yourselves with a little tool. So that's super fun. Now, the way that you use this differently is, no, you're not going to sew through this. You're going to break your needle if you sew through this. So this is going to have to be put in a channel, and I will show you what that looks like as well. Typically also you'll see your clear plastic boning that is usually used for your more translucent bodices. They are also usually put into a channel. But these types of bones and these types of bones are typically used for curves that only happen this way, okay? So they're only going to happen like one or two directions. They're not going to serpentine. They're not going to go this way. You can see how it starts to buckle. Now watch this. This handles the serpentine turn perfectly. So this is why you typically see this type in corsetry, when you have not just bending this way, but you've got bending this way in the design of the corset. And I'll let you see the sketch for that too, for how that's worked. But all of these are kind of channeled in, just like the way Micarah has been using the zip ties. She's been using the zip ties like these. Now, as far as price comparison, I don't know that you're saving any money by using zip ties versus these. These are very, very cheap, but you do basically use them the same way. You just cut them to the length you need them to be, and you can kind of round off the corners for comfort's sake. And if you get a jagged edge, you can even file it a little bit if you want to make it a little more comfortable and a little less likely to punch through the fabric. So here's an example of the channels for the boning in, let's say, an illusion bodice. You could choose to use invisible thread for this instead of the ivory thread, but I just thought it would make it way too hard for you to see what I'm doing. So basically, you're just going to put the boning down between the layers, just like that. Obviously, this part, all of this is going to be finished according to the design of the dress, but that's how you can channel the boning in there. And the same thing with the steel, although typically we don't see the steel boning put in a translucent top. We usually only see the clear boning put in there. Typically, you will not see the sew-through boning put into a channel just because there's so much drag with it. It just doesn't work very smoothly. This clear is also so much more clear than the clear boning, so it just makes sense to use this kind. Here's an example of the boning on a dress form. Now, this is the dress form that's kind of set up for the series that I'm working on right now of how to design your own bridal line. It's super exciting. Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss out on that. That's happening all this spring and into the end of summer. So follow along with us on that. But here's an example of kind of where and how you would see these bones used. We'd put the boning along the side seam typically, and you can see how this just has the one type of curve in it. And then you can see how this is used more for corsetry when you have more of that serpentine curve in it. It's not just curving up over this princess seam, but it's actually kind of going to the side a little bit. Oftentimes, when you see the mass manufactured popular bridal styles and you alter them and see what's inside of them, you will often just see the sew through Ridgeline style boning that's going vertical here. This is often going to be, let's say, 1/4 of an inch for each of these vertical seams or channels. Again, it's sew through, so it doesn't have to be a channel. At the side seams, I'm often going to see more of like a 1/2 inch wide at the base of the cup, kind of going down this shape, or maybe even going across the front of the cup. I'll see more like a 1/4 of an inch wide as well. Most commonly, when I'm altering a mass manufactured gown right now, I'd say I see only about 4 sticks of the boning, usually the 1/2 inch wide on the sides and the 1/4 inch wide in the princess seam. So this is very much a part of your design process, is deciding what kind of boning to use and where to put it. Same thing here when you need some more flexibility for it boning, for the boning taking on these kind of curves. You may only see like a 1/4 inch boning here, and then you may see an underwire channeled through. Commonly for bridal style, we do not see an underwire sewn into the dress. It's usually just that 1/4 inch boning that is underneath the cup of the gown. If there is boning under the cup of the gown, often there's not. Oh shoot, I forgot to mention this kind as well. This is a nice, flat, super strong kind. The reason why I forgot it is we don't normally see these in manufactured wedding gowns at all. This is definitely something that you see more commonly in true corset. Those flat steel pieces are often called busks in this type of corset. Keep in mind that this channel is all about bridal sewing techniques, and so we don't go into a lot of detail for traditional corsetry. There's a lot of great channels out there that do, though. You can check into those. Just the main point of this video is to teach you about the different types of boning, the way they're used, because they all are different. Sometimes when we do not have lining or multiple layers that we can slide the boning up through, but we need to add boning to a dress that doesn't have a lot of support, we do wrap the boning in a colored fabric or ribbon that really kind of goes with the design of the dress, and then we can sew it in like this. I do have an entire video on this, by the way, but this is the Ridgeline sew through boning. You can see the stitches where I sewed it to the wrap, and then I just do these large stitches to lash it into place. I hope this has clarified all things boning for you. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments section below. I'll be happy to answer them. Don't forget, I've got piles of links in the description. And also don't forget, you can go to my website where you can follow a link to purchase my book. You can also come here and shadow me for retreats, which is great fun. I'm also available for consulting if you like. Here comes my channel trailer, and it'll tell you more about me. Bye. I know what you're looking for. You've been sewing for years, but you want to get into full-time bridal sewing. But there's something missing. You're missing the backroom secrets, the industry tips and tricks. The tools, the sources, the techniques that give you the speed and the accuracy that the industry demands. You have found it.